Hello, Carl. How are you today?
Fantastic, but I'll get better. And thank you once again for allowing us to bring you Wave Your Grades on KUAW.org. My name is Carl Boyd, and the voice you heard before mine is Louis George Walker, founder of KUAW.org. KUAW stands for Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. And Brother Louis George Walker, as I mentioned to you before we came on the air, our very special guest for today had an emergency and will not be with us. And I can say unequivocally that I am so looking forward to a time in the near future when that gentleman will be available to join us on Wave Your Grades, and he will discuss his distinguished military background as well as motivating our young people who are matriculating in our secondary schools and what he is about now. So I don't need to attempt to divulge any of that. I will wait until he is indeed available. So once again, thank you for joining us on Wave Your Grades. And Brother Walker, in as much as our special guest is not available, on one hand, that is certainly unfortunate because we're so looking forward to having that opportunity. But on the other hand, it gives us an opportunity. Uh, as you and I are old enough to reflect on philosophers of old, whether they are philosophers in our history books or in the backyard when we were growing up, our parents would tell us for every negative, there is an opportunity. And so it is that I would like to take advantage of the time, um, giving some updates and talking about what those opportunities are as it relates to the program Wave Your Grades and the sponsoring organization Stutes for Boots, because
All
I don't
right.
always get an opportunity to elaborate on it. And I will call upon you, Brother Louis George Walker, to invite uh, my listener, if she's listening, to call in if he, she, or they would like to call in.
I
I
understand.
always tell people I have at least seven, unless my wife is washing her hair.
All right. All right.
But if they'd like to participate seriously, how can they do that?
All right. So we're going to try a couple of things. One, I've got the Facebook up on KUAW Wave Your Grades so that if anybody wants to join in on the conversation, if they'll text me or put it in on the Facebook page, I'll see it and we'll see if we'll just relay a question or if it's a person with a substantial amount that they may want to join this Zoom call and come in with us. So I will look at that. So if anybody would like to join this call, be sure and go to our KUAW radio on the Facebook page. And then you'll be able to put in that you know, whatever it is you want to say, and I will contact you on that. You can also text me direct at 816-805-0406. Text or call 816-805-0406. Probably should have gave the landline number in here because my phone doesn't always pick up as good here. So you can try that. If you don't get in that, or if we get cut off, try 816-781-4050. That's 816-781-4050. That's in our remote studio location that we're at. So we do have, and that is the official BFTAA number, so you won't be interrupting the family or anything if you call in
Okay.
on that. So give us a call at 816-781-4050 or come in on Facebook. I'm looking at it now to see if we get any comments, and we'll be able to relay those to Carl as soon as we get them.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let me let our viewer listeners know what it is that I am excited about. Stoots for Boots is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. And I say that advisedly. I don't refer to us as an organization, but we are an organization because we are in action attempting to help our American students strive for excellence in honor of our troops. Now, in as much as KUAW.org is a radio station on the move, and as a matter of fact, Louis George Walker is one of the few people with whom I interact of late who is close to my age. So I often talk about um, things that were peculiar to our generation that are changing as we go. So it is very natural, Brother Walker, for me to say radio station. But where so where social media are concerned, there are any number of ways to tune in to gain access to what we're talking about.
Now
So
that
for
is
those
true.
who, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was going to say that is true. So those of you that would like to join in, we're not only on Facebook, but we're on YouTube also. So you can go to YouTube, type in KUAW Radio, and we'll be there. And if you happen to be in your car and you can't go to something that you can watch, you can listen to us. If you've got a smartphone or a smart speaker, you tell it to play KUAW radio and it'll play us. You can also pick us up on MyTuner. MyTuner is a online radio hosting site. We're there. You can pick us up on TuneIn, the TuneIn radio site. And you can also pick us up on the online radio box and radio garden. Also, you can go directly to our page, our webpage, which is www.kuaw.org. So if you want to listen to KUAW radio, there are tons of ways that you can do it. Type us in the Google search, just put in KUAW radio, and we should show up a lot of different ways.
All right, that is outstanding. I always get encouraged when I talk to judge advocate for BFW 8100, former commander Gerald Caldwell, and he often talks about listening to us as he is driving. So that is always a good thing as it relates to having someone who is paying attention to who we are and what we are attempting to do. So just in case there are those who might want to participate, let me try to outline what you will be participating in as we go along on Wave Your Grades on KUAW.org. Our program seeks to assist American students in their striving for excellence by giving information and motivation during our program every Saturday from 1 until 2 p.m. And Brother Walker, what is wonderful about being on your station on KUAW.org is when I say from 1 until 2 p.m., we are in a situation where I need to say Central Standard Time because you are heard all over the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we can't just say 1 o'clock and leave it at that.
No, and just in case somebody thinks that I am exaggerating, we had an actual band play in the studio. I think you will remember that, and they were launching the urban area band. But that Monday after the Saturday, where the young people played on the program, their instructor received a call from Vietnam. So
Absolutely.
and that is a true story. So that helps us to understand that from 1 until 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, let me attempt to tell you what we are about. And by the way, our program is unscripted and unrehearsed. It is a conversation. So I'm not reading from a script. And we invite questions in case something that I say needs clarity. What we are doing now is inviting military bases to invite our young people to communicate with those who are in the military or who have been in the military. This is the philosophy behind having our young people help our servicemen and women to know how much they are respected. We have a theme song, and in the future, we'll be playing it every week. But the chorus of the theme song has the words, "In this parade, please wave your grades at the troops who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do." The idea here is this. There are people in the United States of America who have volunteered to sacrifice some of the time with families and to put their lives on the line for the United States of America and giving young people the opportunity to go to school. Now, our young people are too young to vote, too young to enlist, but you are certainly not too young to excel. The United States of America today is in the throes of a climate that is more divisive than I have seen, and I am 79 years old. Now, that's my opinion. Brother Walker, we talk about our ages being similar. You may or may not share that opinion, but most people of our generation can at least say that we're more divisive than we should be.
Definitely so. Definitely so.
So that there are two entities in our society who cause us to agree not only that they deserve our respect, but they also deserve for our respect for them to cause us to become a more united nation. What are those two entities? They are certainly our children and our service personnel. So while we are so divided, I happen to believe that one of the ways that we can bring people together is around the idea that when someone serves in the military, they should certainly come home to an environment that is less violent than what they have had to confront in the military. We owe it to them to have a more peaceful society, but where young people who are in school are concerned, we also owe it to them to have a more productive society. So if there are young people who are bored with school or who are not enthusiastic about it, I go back to, and Brother Walker, you've heard me offer this quote often from Millis Doc Bass, the Reverend Millis Doc Bass, the relevance of intelligence. If young people want to make education relevant to their lives, I am suggesting that to make life better for the military in the future, young people need to take seriously what they are studying and what they intend to do as far as career choices are concerned and as far as peaceful and productive lifestyles are concerned. So, Democrat or Republican, Black, white, Hispanic, Native American, Asian, male or female, young or old. If you are in the United States of America, I think that we can all agree that we owe a better society to those who have served and a more promising society for those who come behind us. Now, Stutes for Boots, our 501c3 organization, suggests that one of the things that can be done as it relates to motivating our young people towards success is to point out that we should not have other nations depend upon our military to save them, and yet have students who are outperforming our own. How are we going to help those who serve achieve success if they cannot look back and depend upon those who are attending school to be doing the best that they can do? As you know, I have a saying for every day of the week. I mean, yeah, every day of the year, 366 morning messages. But Brother Walker, one of those messages is how can you look in a hero's eyes and be a student who never tries? Now, of course, the philosophy behind something like that is to say that they ought to be able to come home and go and visit a school and see American students engaged seriously in what they are doing. Uh, my prayer is that there are VA hospitals where students might be allowed to go and visit veterans in hospitals to say to them, the way that we are thanking you for the sacrifice that you have made is to show you how well we're doing at school. So here we have the name of our radio program on KUAW.org, Wave Your Grades, because we want students to do more than wave the flag. We want you to be able to say to those who have been in the military or who are yet in the military, here are my grades. And if the grades are not excellent, they should at least be an improvement on the grades that you had last year. Here is our community service. Here is our leadership. Here is where we participate in extracurricular activities. As a matter of fact, Brother Lewis George Walker, you might want to join in the conversation at this point. We would like for American students to be able to say to our veterans and service personnel, here is how we are improving technologically so that we are a part of the world's advancement where technology is concerned. And Brother Walker, you represent the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. So if you don't mind, you might talk about some of the ways our students can participate in what you are doing.
Well, yes, as you talk about what you're talking about, getting kids and not just the kids but their parents and stuff involved in technology. And by technology, I don't mean just using a computer and stuff. It's science. We call it STEM: science, technology, engineering, mathematics. That is a key thing in advancing technological progress and stuff. Not just working on a computer, not just building a robot, but the whole field. And we need to get more people, families, and definitely young people looking at that as a way, a career path, as a college path, as getting into science, getting into technology, working with your mathematics. That's a foundational subject to go forward. So with the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, our goal is to make kids enjoy learning and doing it on a project-based curriculum, so that they're learning, but they're learning by doing, by having fun. We know that a lot of our young men, especially African American men, are kinesthetic learners. They learn more when they can get their hands on it, when they can touch it, when they can work with it in that regard. So, that's what robotics programs, drone programs, this 1080 racing that some people have, all of that is where you get involved in it, and then you want to learn about it because you want to do better in it. And as you do that, it opens up doors. It starts the mind to looking at, okay, how can I do this better? And a lot of times in competition, that's even brought out more. Because if you're in a race, if you have a robot and he's supposed to go pick up 3 widgets and bring them back to you, and the other person's got to do three widgets and bring them back, but it's who can do it the fastest.
Yes.
Then all of a
Yes.
sudden you got to start learning. Well, what makes it go faster? How do I get it to go faster? What
Yes.
what is all entailed in that? So while they're learning, digging out that information, they're getting some fun and learning in it too. So what we do at the Black Family Technology Awareness Association with our robotics program is we have the kids in robotics competitions, and they build robots and they use them in competitions. And that is what we're not a school, we're not in a classroom. It's out of school science, out of school learning. But a lot of times, if you think back even on your life, a lot of things that you learned didn't happen in school.
That's right. That's right. And as a matter of fact, while you are discussing that, um, it happened that my wife and I returned to the Kansas City community in 2010. And at that time, I was blessed to have an introduction to Dr. Marion Brown from the Reverend Dr. Ford. And she allowed me to come to the Benjamin Banneker Charter Academy of Technology to teach reading and robotics. Now, this was at the Benjamin Banneker Charter Academy of Technology. And Brother Walker, I was blessed to meet Brother William Wells and Brother Ricky Bright at Benjamin Banneker. And when you mentioned STEM, I know you and I both were thinking about STEAM as well. And so it is that these gentlemen, and with your affiliation with Brother William Wells, participating in and conducting competitions in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, that is motivational to young people and goes back to Doc Bass, the relevance of intelligence. Because what I was getting ready to say to you, and I can do it in the form of a question, does this happen? When our young people are so stimulated, and you were saying that they ask themselves the question, how can I get this robot to maneuver faster or the route more efficiently? Is it true that from time to time, you also have young people who come to you with suggestions on different kinds of competitions or manipulations with technology?
Oh, absolutely. And we want to open it. We have open discussions. One thing I learned from one of our volunteers, and we get people out of industry. So we've got engineers, we've got enthusiasts and all that kind of come around and help with the kids. But they have a session. They call it Scrum, and I wasn't at work when they were doing Scrum, but they all get together and it's like a circle, and you kind of shout out ideas of what you want to do, and the kids
Wow.
are leading this. They're coming up. We can do this, and what if we do this? And they write it all on the board, and then they look at everybody's suggestion, and the group then kind of comes to a decision of, okay, let's go this way. So, and that's one of the things about these competitions in robotics that goes beyond working with the robot. Is that it's learning how to work in a group. It's learning how to state your ideas and get your point out there. Not that it's always going to be the one that's taken, but that you have some input in it. Well, as you learn that goes in a lot of things in life, a lot of things on your job, a lot of things. A lot of companies now are looking for people that can work in that group situation, because it's not one of us, it's all of us that do things. So as they say at W.E.B. Du Bois, is that as you come up there, it's not just that you're learning the math or that you're learning reading or that you're learning robotic. It's the atmosphere of learning. It's the atmosphere of enthusiasm that gets into you, that makes you say, okay, boy, I can even do something. I can do more. I can do better. I mean, everybody's doing something. Everybody's getting involved in something. I want to do something too. And that gets kids really wanting to get into it. And a lot of times they're looking for that other outlet. we had a young lady that came to us from Ivanhoe Temple. They heard about what we were doing, and hey, can we come over there for a camp? And she ended up staying with us for 5 years till she
Wow.
went off to college and stuff
Yes.
because she saw the robot, she got a chance to get her hand. Now she doesn't want to be a robot scientist. She likes graphic designs and computer languages and stuff. But she was able to interact with other engineers there that were telling her how they use that at work with what they did and what this
Thank
and another.
you.
And yeah, we're doing robots, but we can talk to you about this other programming that you like to do, working with Python and stuff like that, which I didn't understand at all. So, but
Well,
you just see it going around, and they're like, okay, well, great, and that's it. And then we take the kids to travel. They went out to Adrian, Missouri. Okay, and you don't look at Adrian, Missouri as being another melting pot and stuff. It's basically all a small town America. And what you think small town? I mean, real small town America is maybe 1,000 people in Adrian, Missouri.
yeah.
But when we took our kids down to the Adrian, Missouri high school, and our kids worked with the kids that were down there, they had a great time. They were all about robots. So now all of a sudden, you've got this intermingling of people that never maybe would meet. And I won't forget that was it Harvest Church had a team, and they brought some kids down. So our kids were down there with the kids in Adrian, and the main thing was is they were competing in robotics, having a
Yes,
great
sir.
time, sharing information, and surprisingly, the parents are talking with each other. It's
Well,
a whole community thing going on down there while you're down there. And I've met some people out of the Cattlemen's Association, and they're serving steak sandwiches out and stuff like that, and it's a great time. But we never would have got together had it not been for this robotics competition, this STEM
well,
competition.
let me just say to those who are viewing and listening that this is Wave Your Grades every Saturday on KUAW.org, a program that is dedicated to the motivation of United States students and dedication to those who have served and are serving in the military. My name is Carl Boyd. I am your host, speaking with Louis George Walker. And Brother Walker, this will probably, I think this is backwards for the camera that I use. So it's Proud Military Advocate. Now, the reason that I do that is because this program is indeed dedicated to veterans and students. I am a civilian, so I want it to be known that I believe that my being the first to graduate college in my family, being due to the fact that my oldest brother was a Marine, second to him was an airman, my brother closest to me was a soldier, and I feel that I owe them a debt of gratitude for helping me to get through school. And in a very similar, sincere way, I believe that American students today owe a debt of gratitude to those who are serving and have served. So that's what Wave Your Grades is about. And here is what you make me mindful of. Having the opportunity to go to college, when I graduated in 1964, I became a teacher on the south side of Chicago in seventh and eighth grade science at Douglas Elementary School on 32nd Street, not far from where I live. But the point that you made me think about was 1964, in the 50s and 60s, teaching was largely didactic. Now, when Mortimer Adler came up with the Paideia program on Socratic teaching, he talked about three ways of teaching. One was didactic, one was coaching, and the other Socratic. Didactic was simply that we as teachers could lecture you Monday through Thursday and test you on Friday. And that was it. You were not to interact. I'm the teacher. I'm telling you what you need to know. Go to the book and study it and get ready for the test. Now, coaching was a little better because then I could say it to you and then go from desk to try to help students learn something. Along comes Socratic teaching, where we are suggesting that students have the nerve to participate in discussion and maybe even challenge what I'm teaching as a teacher. So when I hear Louis George Walker talking about the opportunity 2021 being a lot unlike 1964, the Socratic method, where students are throwing out ideas, debating ideas, who are talking about innovative techniques, that helps our young people today to understand that you are not just getting taught, you are a part of the learning process. So that when we are in the Socratic educating mood, I want you not only to tell me that you think something is correct, I want you to tell me why. I want you to tell me how you arrived at that solution. And if there is one compelling way to help our students know an example of doing that, it is in the manipulation of technology. So when I hear about the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, then Louis George Walker is on the cutting edge of what we have referred to, Brother Walker, as you know, closing the gap as it relates to the digital gap between Blacks and whites. And if Leon Dixon were here, he and I would have you to know that closing the gap is not good enough. Black students need to shoot the gap. But we are not going to be satisfied with achieving the same level of mediocrity as someone else, but challenging our entire school system to be first in the world. It is doable, but it needs to be practiced.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it's we want to make sure that the kids get involved with this, and the military is a good vehicle for people to interact with
Yes.
servicemen, because one thing I met and talked with Guy Bluford one time, and he's the
Wow.
nephew of Lucille Bluford, who was
Outstanding.
the founder or the co-founder of the KUAW newspaper here in
Yes.
town. Well, he came to town to speak, and we got to speak with him and talk to him. And I took some of our members down there and stuff, but I'm thinking, these are the type of people. I mean, this is a military man that set some high standards for himself, come from a family of high standard setters, but that he accomplished some things that our kids need to hear about. When I was coming up, you didn't even think about a Black person as an astronaut.
Wow.
That wasn't something that just didn't come out. And it was I hadn't even heard of Tuskegee Airmen, let,
Wow. Yes, sir. Yes,
let
sir.
alone trying to think of astronaut. But to be able to meet people like that excel in different fields is always great, and that's a good interaction for those people and for our students, because if our veterans and active duty service people see that our young people are involved in caring, then that lets them know what they're doing makes a difference.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Especially
Thank
just to the average young person out there. They may not want to go into service, they may, but it's the fact that you're interacting with people on a positive framework.
This is so important. I thank you so much for saying that, because one of the things that you just made me mindful of that is important for educators is that if there is one arena wherein what is learned is practiced, it is certainly in the military service. And they would not find it expedient in any case to have the luxury to learn something just for the sake of learning. Oh, no, no, sir, no, ma'am.
Oh
What
no, there's a
learning,
reason.
it will save someone's life. Now, without hyperbole and meaning it very seriously, our young people today are learning things that can save someone's life. And as long as it is instilled within them that it is important to learn and to learn to practice and apply, that can motivate them to become the best in the world. But again, not just for the sake of saying we are the best, but there are issues and problems surrounding us that will absolutely call upon the best and the brightest in the near and far future around us. So, one of the things that I have talked about, and I suspect that you and I have both said this without having said it to each other, but I'm sure that we have shared it with other people. One of the compelling characteristics of the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center is the fact that the young people who come understand a reason for learning at a high level. And one of the analogies that we have made is the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center is like attending an historical Black college or university. That is to say, that those who are instructing you have a vested interest in your success because you are enhancing the lives of those who are around you. Now, if the United States of America could indeed pay attention to the methodological approaches that employ an Afrocentric learning style that can help education systems throughout the United States of America. Can you imagine? We're talking about how much division there is among us in the United States of America. And what if those around us and close to us decided to observe and appreciate umoja, unity, kujichagulia, self-determination, ujima, collective work and responsibility, ujama, cooperative economics, nia, purpose, kaumba, creativity, amani, faith. That is characteristic based upon Malana Karinga, 1966, the seven principles of the Nguzo Saba. But they are not exclusive to the Black community because Afrocentrism can be practiced elsewhere to the benefit of those who have the audacity to employ it in their learning and living style.
Yes, yes,
Therefore,
yes.
it is not unusual, it is just not always emphasized that the Black community is in a leadership capacity as it relates to helping people to learn. How often have we said while we were celebrating Juneteenth and celebrating African American history that there were more hidden figures than just those ladies in the movie, but it
Yes,
speaks
definitely.
to our ability to learn, and by the way, learn under adverse circumstances and yet excel. When you
That's
mentioned Guion Bluford, I immediately thought of Major Robert H. Lawrence. I had the opportunity in Chicago, Illinois, to teach with a lady whose nephew was Major Lawrence, who was an astronaut who was killed on a practice mission. And many of our young people, Black, white, Hispanic, Native, Asian, and other, have never heard of Major Robert H. Lawrence, and too few have heard of Guion Bluford.
that's so true, so true.
So the fortunate thing is for those who are in the military, and by the way, as we are talking about that in relation to African American history, and let us not forget that the military is comprised of all ethnicities cooperating with each other. And it is very important for us to keep in mind that none functions solely for their own ethnicity, but we have a responsibility to work together to become even more excellent. So all of that time we were talking about it within the context of African American history. We saw the gentleman from the Blue Angels who was representing, I think they're coming close to town pretty soon, but he was a young man of color. When we think about the Buffalo Soldiers, when we think about the Tuskegee Airmen, when we think about the women of the 8666, male carriers, when we think about that background, we are not ashamed to also boast about those of other ethnicities who have been heroic. But America ought to be ashamed to be this divided after you have had this number of people working together, all ethnicities represented. And here we have the audacity to be so divided that we look like we are approaching a civil war, which by the way, I think of, as many people do, that is never consistent when you say civil war, because there's nothing civil about a war. So I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh, that's for sure. That division is there, and I was looking at a thing about a commission that was out looking into this, and it says it left scant doubt that it regarded white racism as the tinder igniting the 1960s riots. Anger over policing and inequality boiled over in 1967 in protests and violence across the United States. A landmark report warned that without major changes, it would happen again. Wow. So, that was the Kerner Commission, 1967. And they had wrote that what was going on, and that if we didn't make changes, it would happen again. Well, talking about policing and inequalities. So, it's not new. This is something that 1967, the Kerner Commission went out. What we have to do as a country is find a way to deal with it. We know what's going on. And now, thanks to a lot of young people and people that are out there now calling it to light, we can actually start talking about it, really start looking at it, not sweep it under the rug. And it's not just about dollars and cents. It's about the inequalities, that are there, the thought patterns that are there. So we're going to continue to work on it, and hopefully we'll get it together, because like you say, we're at a divided point. We've been there before, and we've got to find a way that we don't keep going back over the same land again and again.
I have, by the way, I was trying to think of the term, and the term I was looking for was oxymoron. I mean, Civil War is oxymoronic. But at any rate, there are those who are watching us, listening to us, as we are talking about something we have lived. Many of those who are tuned in are much younger, but in the 1960s, I was in Chicago, Illinois, when we had some confrontations. And the interesting thing about history is, in as much as it must be truthful, I can truthfully say that I have enjoyed and presently enjoy some congenial relationships with white law enforcers and police officers. But in the 1960s, our then mayor actually issued to the police a shoot to kill order. Now, that was not something that we made up or a rumor that we heard. Walter Jacobson and Bill Curtis were on WBBM TV, challenged the mayor to say, did you really tell our police in the Chicago Police Department, and these were Black people demonstrating, to shoot to kill? The mayor said, I said no such thing. They put a split screen on TV where in real time you saw him and then you heard him issuing precisely that order to say, if they demonstrate, shoot to maim; if they loot, shoot to kill. And the then mayor said, oh, you can manipulate the cameras any way you want and make it say what you want it to say. But the reality of the situation was such that it was dangerous to have an encounter with white officers in 1965. And then again, after the assassination of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., April 4th, 1968. And one of the things that I think about
we're going to keep on going and stuff. Go ahead. Okay. We lost Carl Boyd right now. I think he'll be back. We've been having some technical difficulties as far as our connections, and it looks like the Facebook connection has dropped Carl, and we have to get him back on here. I think he'll either come back in shortly, not. But we've been having a great discussion. This is Wave Your Grades on KUAW Radio. Carl Boyd right now. There we go. We're bringing it back. We've been having some technical difficulties as far as I tell you, we'll be so glad to get back into our regular studio so that we can do things in a smoother manner and stuff. This has been a problem that has come up over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We even added a new internet connection, and we still seem to have a problem sometimes of keeping everybody online. But we're glad that you're here. I want to say hello to those of you that have joined. Hello to Miss Forbush. We're glad that you're on, that you're listening, checking out KUAW Radio, something that we are proud to be doing. And want to let you know that we're going to be back in our studios. We're during this winter at the Learning Center where we were in that extreme cold period that we had in February. We actually had some plumbing problems, some pipes frozen, and a lot of damage done to the building. But they've been working on that. We've got a new furnace that was put in that maybe can eliminate pipe freezing, and that's been installed. And we're also working on repairing the damage that the busted pipes in a whole old school building like that. That's not a easy undertaking, but we're getting it together. So thank you guys for joining. My wife Mildred is on here, and we're glad that she's here. And we're going to see if we get Mr. Boyd back. If not, it has been a great day. It was a great show. I don't know if he knows if he's been dropped off yet, but the Zoom link that we had doesn't show him on here right now. So it's just me talking with you. But Wave Your Grades is a great show. Mr. Carl Boyd working with the students and the military, and we've been working with some retired or past military veterans that actually works with the young people. I went down with them to the Gwinnett housing project or Gwinnett village winter before last. I don't think we did anything last winter, but we went down and actually took some robots down for the kids to work with. We've been able to get out and work with them, and the kids actually got to take home some robots. There were some gifts that were given to the young people that were there, and it was really a great time. So our veterans are really involved in the community and really like to see things happening that are positive in the community. So tune in every week, because we'll be back here again next Saturday for Wave Your Grades with Carl Boyd, and we will see how everything hangs in there and stuff. But I'm glad that you joined today and that we were able to get a lot of the conversation out, and hopefully you will join us again next week from 1 till 2 p.m. Now, at 2 p.m. on our video side, you're actually going to be able to see a couple of interviews that we have. Professor Smooth Jazz has been interviewing different smooth jazz artists, and they're going to be back in the studio. We'll be doing that on YouTube and on Facebook. So stay tuned. Stay right here. At 2 p.m., you'll see a premiere that'll come up. They're Miss Joyce Spencer. Joyce Spencer is going to be interviewed today by our own Professor Smooth Jazz. She is a saxophonist in the smooth jazz arena, and I think it's a good interview. So stay tuned for that. Also, continue to listen for Blues Time in the City at 3 o'clock. Now, that won't be a video of it, but for those of you that are blues lovers, go to www.kuaw.org, and you can pick up this blues show, Blues Time in the City. You can also pick it up on your Amazon or Google smart speaker by telling it to play KUAW. And if you have the TuneIn app, go to the TuneIn app, search KUAW Radio, and you can get the Blues Time in the City there. Also on My Tuner, on the online radio box. So if you go to Google and search KUAW Radio, you'll see a lot of different ways you can get us. But it's easier if you just go to www.kuaw.org. And if you have a Bluetooth-equipped car, and a lot of them are now, you can play the station while you're driving through the city, while you're driving across the country. That's the power of internet radio. So be sure and stay tuned and continue listening to KUAW Radio. Join us next week for Mr. Carl Boyd with Wave Your Grades, KC. Wave Your Grades. All right, that's all we have right now, and I'm going to get with Carl and touch base with him. Thank you for joining. In 5 minutes, we'll have the interviews from Professor Smooth Jazz, and continue listening to KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global community radio station. Yes, we're bringing you some of the best news, entertainment, music, blues, jazz, all of that right here at KUAW Radio. So thank you, and we will talk to you next week.